An intellectual carrot, the mind boggles.
You see? You see? You're stupid minds! Stupid! Stupid!
Earth has had Santa Claus long enough. We will bring him to Mars.
I've been afraid a lot of times in my life, but I didn't know the real meaning of fear until I had kissed Becky.
One thing will be clear. It's not for man to interfere in the ways of God.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Earth vs. Soup, episode 180. I'm Aaron Pollier.
I'm Darlene.
And we have a special guest tonight.
Hey, I'm Chuck, and my presence here indicates the fact that yet another Godzilla film will be reviewed.
Godzilla, yes, it's another Godzilla film, and tonight it is Ghidorah, the three-headed monster from 1964. It is the first time we get to see King Ghidorah, and I forgot that he is actually referred to as King Ghidorah in this immediately. I always thought that there was a difference between Ghidorah and then King Ghidorah. So,
interestingly enough, he's actually gone through a couple of variations. Obviously the most current one was the legendary films that kept pretty close, kind of, to the to this original version, but that we see here in Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. But in the Mothra relaunch films, they had a version of Ghidorah that was actually he actually had like four legs.
Oh, really?
Instead of two.
And is he just referred to as Ghidorah in that, or King Ghidorah?
I think they referred to him as King Ghidorah, but I'd have to go back and rewatch the movie to check.
So yes, we have also the return of Rodan in this movie. Rodan is kind of a fan favorite. I actually kind of like Rodan.
I think his sculptures are nice.
Yeah. So we have a lot of like returning characters in this. Again, we talked about this in the last film, but there was like lots of movies that Toho was doing all in 1964. So there's lots of actors and production behind the scenes kind of people that were in Mothra vs. Godzilla that are in Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. We have the return of Yuriko Hoshi, who played the photographer from the last movie. She is the female lead in this. She's not playing the same character. She's playing a reporter, though, and that's why I got confused. Her character's name is Naoko Shindo.
Yeah, and she's dressed almost the same.
Almost the same. We also have Akiko Wakabashi, and she plays the princess in this, but you may know her from the James Bond movie You Only Live Twice. She is a Bond girl in that. So we have a weird crossover there.
You have the Shobijin.
Yes, we also have the Shobijin, Yumi and Imi Ito. Correct? I pronounced that correctly, Chuck?
Yep. And there's a nice bit of a nice bit of continuity there, because in the previous film we reviewed, Mothra versus Godzilla, and the original Mothra, these are the same actresses that were brought back to play these characters each time.
Yes, and I think this is the last time they're seen as the Shobijin. After this, it's new actresses that get cast, and I don't know why. I'm sure it's just, hey, time goes on and they had other things to do in their life besides like going onto giant sets, like sets filled with giant props for them to film against. And
now we have the character Professor M in this one as well. Is it played by the same person as the last two films?
I think so. Yeah, he is the same character from Mothra vs. Godzilla. So the professor that came to Mothra's egg is also in this movie.
Is it the
same
same
character?
Actor?
Same actor, same character. There
Okay.
is a crossover there.
So he's been in the last three then.
Yes. So again, like most of these Godzilla films, we all grew up watching them. All of us did. The difference is that we all grew up watching these movies kind of cut up and Americanized. So at least you and I, Darlene, watching this in Japanese, not dubbed, Japanese and English subtitles, it's a much stronger movie when it's not diced up and made for an American audience.
Yes.
What do you have any like opening thoughts, Chuck?
No, I'm just I've got it. I've got the IMDb page open or opened up, and they're just showing the sequence of King Ghidorah showing up, and it's just a beautiful set or a beautiful sequence of the direct on film and some compositing as he's flying. Is he like just this shimmering, you know, energy, and then the compositing goes right straight to they fade in of King Ghidorah. It's just beautiful. A
Yeah,
beautiful
no,
entry to this character.
it's great on at least on the Blu-ray that we have from the Criterion Collection. It looks great. It's crystal clear. Um, if you
Yep.
don't know King Ghidorah, folks, he's the three-headed monster that has wings and two legs, but he has no arms.
No arms, two tails.
He has two tails. He's kind of a weird dragon-looking thing.
Yeah, and the not having the arms, it really looks funny because the wings are lower down on his.
He looks more alien. He
Yeah.
doesn't look like. I mean, he
And
looks
he is an
less.
alien.
Yeah, he is, but he looks less like a guy in a suit to me because of that. Because it doesn't have arms. 'Cause, I mean, Godzilla wanders around most of the time in these movies with his arms just kind of held out in front of him, right? Like he's not doing a whole lot with it most of the time. And so it's like, all right, yeah, you can tell it's a guy in a suit and he has these arms just so he can like wreck things or throw rocks at people. But anyway, we can start talking about the actual plot and we'll get into geeking out about certain things, unless you have anything else, Chuck.
No, I'm just thinking. You keep saying plot. It's like there's giant kaiju battles. They don't need to have a plot. Just get me from get me from fight to fight to fight, and we're good.
There is something you need to talk about: the fire incident.
Oh, from the last movie. Yeah.
Movie.
Okay, so in the last movie, Mothra versus Godzilla, Godzilla caught on fire in a spectacular special effects shot that was entirely unplanned.
Of fireworks.
Yeah, but it was there was actual like kerosene or something on set for one of these explosions, and it splashed onto the suit before catching fire. So the suit looks different in this for very good reason, because the suit caught fire briefly and melted some parts. So the head actually looks a little different in this. Just saying, like this is supposed to be directly in continuity with the last film, but Godzilla looks just slightly different, and it's because of the explosion that happened in one scene in the last movie. So
We go
this
to,
plot, my God.
We go to it's January with having a heat wave with no coats and that.
But Darlene, why are we in January with no coats?
And 82 degrees.
Because it's nighttime in Japan and there's people on the roof with telescopes. And it turns out that this is a UFO cult of some sort. and I'm this is like the first scene. I put down my notepad and I go, okay. We got a UFO cult. They're signaling to like the lizard people, or like the all the people that we see, all the other humanoid aliens that we see in Godzilla films, because there's been strange happenings occurring according to like the head UFO cultist. Now, I will say in this scene, the background stuff in this scene is fantastic because all the little UFO props that they have are former Toho special effects props from other sci-fi movies that they've made.
Okay.
So like in there's one. What's the one with the starfish people, Chuck? I think one of the UFOs is from them. Oh God, because it's a non-Godzilla film, but it's like the starfish people. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I want to say Hyperions, but I know that's wrong.
Anyway, one of the UFOs is there from that, and I was like excited to see that. Even though we have not reviewed that movie for Earth vs. Soup, maybe we should, Darlene, because everybody remembers it because of those starfish people with the giant eye in the center of their bodies. Supposedly, it's a good film. Otherwise, it's just that they have really goofy looking aliens.
You sure that wasn't Mysterians?
Could be Mysterians. I don't recall. I don't recall. We have not watched that movie yet, Darlene. We have not.
I have.
You've seen movie posters of it and me threatening to watch it with you, and you're like, no, I can't believe it. Can I watch this? So the UFO nuts have recorded a message that was sent into space with the help of this reporter, Naoko Shindo. I'm always going to pronounce her name improperly. I'm sorry. I don't know why she needed to help them send a message into space. You can literally get a ham radio and do it yourself. But it's important to the plot, right? No,
Bring her in.
No. Yeah, just to bring her in. So I guess these strange happenings are a heat wave and an encephalitis outbreak. Oh, and now there's a strange meteor shower that is occurring then. But the strange happenings is an encephalitis outbreak and a heat wave. This has caused the UFO cult to think it is the end of days, and they must signal the mothership.
It's 2012.
Do these? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So we are told that there is a princess coming on an official visit to Japan.
Oh, and can I stop you here and make a joke?
Okay.
Ruffles went out with the 14th century.
Oh God, yeah.
The 15th century.
Those outfits.
Yeah, they're the official outfits of the Kingdom of Serginia.
I don't know. Don't want to know.
They look like
I don't want to go there.
They look like they're from a bad Shakespeare play.
Yes, a bad Shakespeare play that had The King and I in it too.
I was watching that, and it was like, I'm reasonably confident all three of us are going to have that in our notes.
Like just the ludicrous freaking costumes.
I didn't have it in my notes. I have it in my memory.
Okay, so
burned in there forever.
Yes.
It is so common knowledge that reporters, like newspaper, like editors, know that there's going to be an assassination attempt on this princess. It is so widely known that there's an assassination attempt on this princess going to happen.
And we have
this woman is sent out to cover it.
She was to cover it, and somebody else was going to be is a cop that was the reporter in the last one that confused the crap out of me because
they're brother and sister in this, right? There's no. I'm thinking of a different character, but the detective in this is the brother of this reporter. Okay, so there's an assassination attempt.
Yeah.
It just turns out, everyone knows about it, and it's pretty common knowledge, and it does happen. But while they're on the airplane, this princess coming to Japan, what happens is she gets like strange
vibes.
Not vibes. She gets messages beamed into her brain by Venusians. This is what we learn later, folks. From Venusians telling her she must leave the plane. She will die if she does not leave the plane. So mid-flight over the Pacific, she opens the door and walks out.
No explosive decompression from from being in a pressurized airplane.
And then the plane explodes. Likely because of her departing it in such a way. It tumbles out of the sky and explodes.
But that was the plot that the guy did, was to make sure the plane blew up.
And she was able to push that door outwards, right?
Yes. See, all planes are designed to seal because of internal pressure pushing out.
It would be very hard, I was told, to open up one of those doors in mid-flight.
It would be essentially impossible to do so. But she does, and in fact, we learn later on, she survives the tens of thousands of feet fall by passing into another dimension and landing safely on the ground.
No, she's in the water because she gets saved by
but she lands in the water unscathed.
Yes. Because we have that fisherman.
And I'm obviously kind of holding my head at this point.
I was laughing because he's named in the credits as Honest Fisherman.
He's in the credits as Honest Fisherman? You know what? I actually thought that guy was cool. And they treated him well, too.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey,
but I laughed at his name.
At what point did they did they start delving into the magnetic meteors? Was that like? I seem to recall earlier on when they were on top of the building. You know, the UFO people.
Yeah.
Before we actually knew that they were UFO people, when we just innocently thought that they were just amateur astronomers. All right. This is a college club or something. Like.
No, they're UFO cult.
No,
it's actually the next
they're waiting to
scene,
contact the lizard people. Pardon?
It's actually
you're
the next
taking
scene.
my
See,
spot.
you just did to Darlene there. Like it's the magnetic meteors are the next scene. Believe it or not.
Well, I remember that they're talking or back then at the beginning of the film about meteors are coming down because
Yeah,
they were like
there's-
it's like well, wait, is that a UFO? No, it's like no, it's a meteor.
Yeah, it's a meteor. Get it together, man.
And there's another one.
Your gods. Know your false gods. So we go to a dam, and workers say they saw a meteor come down in the nearby mountains. Okay, fair enough. So people from the institute, including our returning character, Professor Miura, end up finding a down meteor, but it looks like an egg. Okay, what have we learned from previous Godzilla movies? If you see something that looks like an egg,
It's
an egg.
And X goes towards the egg.
All their metal equipment starts sliding towards the egg. Okay.
So I want you to remind you of this one in the next time they go there with the stuff going towards it. Wouldn't you only put one object up there?
See, here's the thing: it's not magnetic. They say it's not magnetic.
Yeah, wasn't it like gravitational or something?
It's gravitational, but no one falls towards it. If you have stuff that's like tools laying on the ground that suddenly starts sliding towards the egg, you would be sliding towards the egg too.
Okay, but my question is, if you knew that this would happen,
Yeah.
wouldn't you tie things down?
Yeah, because it happens again later on. They're like, "Oh, look, here's our tools sliding around again."
My thought.
So we all then go to a nearby park, and a woman in shabby clothing speaks about Earth being on the brink of destruction, and she says she's from Venus. She predicts that something bad will happen on the nearby mountain, Mount Aso. Okay, and this is the princess. She's clearly lost her memory and is possessed by a Venusian energy being or whatever, the mind of a Venusian. I have no idea. Just go with it, folks.
Oh, I think they were saying that it was a ancient. In the end, it was the ancient memory
Of a Venusian.
of a Venusian that came to Earth a long time ago.
Maybe. But it's that the meteor flashes past the plane when she hears the voice. So that suggests to me that the Venusian came with that meteor. I know
have no idea.
yeah, you have no idea. I'm sorry. So on a talk show, and this is what's interesting, there's a talk show that's led by a couple comedians. And these comedians were real life comedians in Japan. I did read that at the time, and they had a talk show like this. So it was really strange seeing them on the screen, basically doing their whole shtick. And they bring some kids on, and they're like, "Hey, what do you kids really want to see?" And they're like, "We want to see Mothra, because Mothra's awesome." Yeah, okay, yeah, Mothra's pretty cool, but they want to see Mothra, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, kid, Mothra won't fit in the studio, but we have the Shobijin here," and the Shobijin like just kind of come out, and they're like, "Hi, public of Japan. We're here to talk about our glorious god Mothra."
Don't
Do
you
you have a
want
moment
to?
to?
Yeah.
Do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior Mothra?
Yeah, exactly. So they literally are on the talk show circuit. Like this is unlike the other movies. The Shobijin are like fully in charge here.
They have to pay for little Mothra's food.
Little Mothra's food and the cleanup of Infant Island from all the nuclear testing because it's a radioactive wasteland.
So why not hit the
talk show circuit?
They got the information that they could make lots of money on the first Mothra film.
Look, they'd make way more money going to Vegas and having a Vegas show act.
Hey, folks, remember that giant moth that saved your island nation from the giant lizard?
Yeah,
just a while ago.
Can you help us, fix the island?
And
please?
they sing their song. You forgot that. They sung their song.
They sing the Mothra song?
Yes.
Well, they sing the Mothra song, but they also sing a new song that's like "Happiness is Life" or something like that. I don't know. It's interesting. It was written specifically for this movie.
And the next scene, you have Bad Puppet.
Which puppet? Oh, is it the Mothra puppet?
No, it's Rodan.
Is it Rodan? Oh, you're jumping ahead though again, Darlene.
I told you.
Okay,
I said
so
Nixon.
We learn that the twin Mothra larva from the last movie, one survived, one died. And this is just kind of brought up and then moved on from.
Well, if you saw the first movie or the previous movie, Mothra versus Godzilla, you know which one died.
Yeah, the one that got the hell beat out of it with the tail. But I mean, that theoretically should be a sad moment that should be dwelt on at least for a little bit, but it's just briefly mentioned and then forgotten about, really. And that stood out as being a little weird to me. Anyway, they sing to Mothra, and the two reporters are watching the show and figure out that they come to the conclusion that this crazy person in the park must be the princess in a scene that's there. And then,
well, isn't there also like a police detective who's supposed to be her bodyguard, but then the plane explodes, and then now he's convinced that or this woman who's preaching to the crowds about global destruction or impending doom is the princess.
yes, it's I'm sorry. So I kind of end up always imagining this detective being a reporter as well, and it probably goes back to watching Mothra and Godzilla, just because the actress who's playing the reporter in this is the same from the last movie. So I end up thinking that this cop is a reporter too, but he's not. Yeah, it's this reporter and this cop kind of come to the conclusion that this is the princess.
But the cop was told and given a picture of the princess because he was supposed to protect her from assassination.
Yes. Well, how was he supposed to do that when she would get killed beforehand? Because we learned that it was a bomb on board the plane.
Yes, we did.
All right, but so we go back to her homeland, this kingdom of Serginia, and we get to see all the ruffle-collared people from a bad Shakespearean play
with sunglasses.
They're wearing sunglasses, and this guy named Malmus is like this assassin extraordinaire, and he gets sent to Japan to kill this preacher if she is the princess, because I guess it immediately gets out that this person might be the princess. She kind of looks similar.
Well, she was on TV.
Yeah. So we end up having this cop and the reporter go to a soda shop, which was very strange to see to me. Like, they go into a hotel and there's like a soda shop there. I don't know. It was weird. I don't know, for whatever reason. It just felt like out of place.
Soda jerk.
Like, not out of place in a bad way, but it was just like, wow, that's kind of weird that they're going to a soda shop. I don't know. And we had the professor from earlier that was out looking at the egg meteor. He shows up from the institute, and this is where they see on the news that the princess, who is the Venusian doomsayer, says that Rodan will wake up. And she's like out at the
Mount
Aso. And we have this whole scene of this guy kind of losing his hat at this time, and this other guy goes down and grabs it and comes back up. He makes money off of running down into the crater to pick up things that people drop into the crater.
But almost gets killed.
But he almost gets killed because Rodan awakes and jumps out of the crater. And I freaking love Rodan. But
Mount Aso is an active volcano.
Yes, so he jumps out of this volcano effectively.
Even today, it's an active volcano.
Yeah, and he beats his wings and buildings just explode, right? It's this kind of... Rodan has this thing where he can just turn up winds that will wreck everything around him. It's like that sonic boom thing that he can do. Even in the Legendary films, he has that he...
Well, the Legendary film extremely pushes it.
Yeah.
Because it's like the whole city goes down.
Yeah, but remember, Rodan was supposed to represent the Soviet Union in many ways in his first outing. We haven't reviewed Rodan, but the intent behind Rodan was that he was supposed to represent the destruction that the Soviet Union could lay down. This kind of wind, this fiery wind that could come out. So I'm not just pulling that out of my butt. I've read that in many different places. Unless Chuck wants to disagree, and please do. If I'm wrong.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So where was I here? Okay, so Rodan starts blowing buildings apart, and the egg in the mountain starts glowing, and the fairies end up going back to Infant Island. Bye-bye, we're going to go. Bye-bye, we have things to do. And the princess shows up on the boat that they're going to sail on.
No, out in the crowd.
She gets on the boat. she's on the boat, and she says this boat cannot sail.
Should not sail.
Yeah, it should not sail. It sails.
Yeah.
So now the UFO cult basically thinks that the princess, this is where we learn that the UFO cult thinks that the princess survived falling from the aircraft by falling into a parallel dimension that allowed her to soft land in the water. I don't know why this is here.
We also have the bracelet turns up sometime.
Oh, the bracelet that she gave to Honest Fisherman. His character's name is Honest Fisherman. That proves that she's the princess if she has it, but she gave it away.
For the clothes, the hat,
Yeah, so we end up having...
we follow the ship.
Yeah, well, in a little bit. So the princess is taken to a hotel by the reporter, and the assassins see her, but aren't sure if it's her. Okay?
Because she doesn't recognize them.
Well, she doesn't recognize them, and she doesn't have this bracelet on. And in the room, the fairies are there. Like, they just show up in this room.
No, they were in
in the hotel room.
No, they were in the reporter's bag.
Well, they show up in the
Yes.
hotel room. They come out of the bag. She didn't know they were in the bag. That's my point. And the fairies are there because they believed the princess, about why the ship shouldn't sail. And we get this kind of cool special effect shot of the ship sailing, and I'm like, oh man, Godzilla's going to wreck this. And then it turns around, like the camera pans, and then we actually see like whales, a pod of whales going.
Yeah. It is a pod of whales.
It's a pod of whales, and then Godzilla comes in and wrecks the ship with
the pod of whales.
With the pod of whales there with his atomic breath. And I'm
what
like,
did you say about the ship? You were like, they're whaling again.
They're whaling again, damn it. Godzilla's there protecting the whales. No, that's not true. That's just me making a joke about the whole Japanese whaling fleet thing that kind of upsets me. But anyway, Godzilla shows up. He pops out of the water. He's ticked off. He's had a bad day. He had been covered with silly string and set on fire.
And
I was honestly waiting for them in that scene for Godzilla to grab a whale and do an Ozzy Osbourne thing. You know?
Just grab a whale by the tail and beat the hell out of the ship with it. That would
just bite the head off.
Bite the head off and go. Argh!
But all he does is burn the ship to.
Yeah, he leaves the whales alone. Thankfully.
Well, his atomic breath would have killed them.
Yeah, they're probably all singed.
We keep talking about there's no consequences to his. If he does one spot, the whales are right next to the ship.
I know, the whales are all dead. Yeah, the whales are dead. Come on. So anyway,
they're sterilized.
Yeah, that or they're sterilized. That's right. So the bad dudes end up showing up at the hotel room and confront the princess, and she's just kind of disassociated at this point. She's acting kind of like...
That's a gross thing, is all the deformed whales that would be born from that.
Godzilla just tools around the ocean all the time. How many deformed fish are there going to be, too? Lots. But the princess is like totally disassociated. She's kind of acting robotically almost around these assassins. And the fairies end up turning off the lights and the cop arrives. And there's like a shootout, which is actually kind of cool. Like the fairies, I guess, can sense that this cop is going to show up, and they sort of pre-plan the fact that there's going to be a shootout to try to protect the princess, protect their lives and the cop's life. But doesn't the cop still shoot, like, dead one of them?
No, they run out the window.
That's right.
Because she ends up in the fireplace.
So they all flee out the window, and outside a ship explodes in the harbor. Godzilla has arrived. Because, Godzilla always has to make an entrance, right? Ship explodes, and then Rodan shows up. And Rodan doesn't, show up and immediately fight. Rodan does a pass-by. He does a flyby at, speed. He sounds like a jet aircraft going past, right? Remember?
And he doesn't even flap his wings.
He's gliding. No, man. He just has gas. So he's just shooting across the sky at Mach 2 or something like that.
Yeah, he's pulling a Maverick.
Yeah, because Godzilla's just kind of staring at him up in the sky. He's like, what the hell is that? So, has Godzilla even met Rodan at this point?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because I don't think he's in Rodan's just Rodan.
Yeah, just the two Rodans. I'm just looking at the numbers here. I mean, is this like the first appearance of Rodan after the initial movie?
Yeah, I think so.
I wouldn't be the person to ask.
Because I think this is the same suit as the original Rodan suit. Like, they didn't have to repair it. But there was 2 Rodan suits in the first movie. We haven't reviewed Rodan. I'm just saying. And by the way, finding a copy of Rodan
is impossible.
I might have to just.
You might have to borrow one from Chuck.
Yeah, I might have to. Anyway,
do you have it, Chuck?
I know it's on.
It's on HBO Plus.
Yeah, on HBO Max, but
Max.
I think I might have it on DVD. I don't recall.
Yeah, it's impossible to find, and I don't have a copy. I'll be honest. So the cop, the reporter, and the princess go out to a lab, and the doctors say that there's nothing wrong with her. Okay, so they go out to like this mental health laboratory. They hook her up to all these instruments. Like, there's nothing wrong with the princess. According to these instruments, she's Venusian. She's telling the truth. And I guess the doctor sort of takes it at face value.
At the very least, she believes or she's being honest when she says she believes that she's Venusian.
Yeah. So she then says that King Ghidorah will ruin Earth like he ruined Venus. And we have both Godzilla and Rodan approaching this egg in the mountains. And this is when King Ghidorah hatches from the egg.
And all the tools go flying towards the...
Yep. Absolutely. So this is the animation you were talking about, Chuck.
Oh, yeah, when King Ghidorah shows up?
Yeah. It's very cool. It's a very, very well done animation. King Ghidorah shows up. You end up having Rodan flying past a castle. Is it the same castle again?
Nagoya Castle? Oh, yeah. And we saw Godzilla destroy in the previous film, and but this time, King Ghidorah destroys Nagoya Castle.
So the most secure job in Japan is rebuilding this castle over and over again every month.
And it is kind of realistic. I mean, or by plane to get from Mount Aso to Nagoya Castle, you're looking about an hour and 25-minute flight. So it's I don't know. I can believe that if Godzilla and Rodan are over by Nagoya Castle, I can see King Ghidorah making it there relatively quickly.
Sure. So King Ghidorah just starts laying loose with the gravity beams at this point. And he's just torching buildings, but we also have a separate battle happening with Godzilla and Rodan, and it to me this is a slightly goofy monster fight. Like, Godzilla nails Rodan a couple times with atomic breath, and
Rodan starts pecking his head.
Yeah, Rodan just starts pecking at his head like a woodpecker, and it's clearly the puppet versions of the monsters that they're using to make them move really quickly. So you can kind of see a different style of fight, but it looked weird. It just looked weird. And then now back at the Japanese Diet, the fairies arrive at the Diet to try to talk, and they say that Mothra can't defeat King Ghidorah. We can't ask Mothra for help right now because Mothra is just a larva. Because and hey, 2 Mothra larvae can at least hold back Godzilla, but there's no way that one Mothra larva is going to hold back King Ghidorah. It would take all of them working together. Mothra larva, Godzilla, and Rodan working together might be able to do it. And they'll have to talk. They'll have to get Mothra to actually talk to the other monsters, to get them to work together, because it's pretty damn clear that Godzilla and Rodan hate each other. So Mothra's just off on Infant Island, and I guess the Shobijin just channel to Mothra, hey Mothra, you need to come, because this is where they sing again. And you have the Mothra larva nodding on the little flat rock. He's bouncing his head and going, yeah, I'll come. And then he jumps in the water. Well, she jumps in the water and leaves. So the princess says that even with drugs, even with being drugged up to high heaven, that she's still from Venus. And the assassins end up making it into this mental health facility and turn up the voltage on the electroshock machine, because the doctor has decided that only electroshock treatments will blast the princess back to sanity. Thankfully, they do not use the incredibly dangerous amount of voltage that the machine is allowed to use for some reason on the princess because the monsters are fighting nearby. Rodan grabs Godzilla and carries him into the air, and Godzilla is dropped through power lines, basically shorting out all the electrical power in the region and saving the princess. I don't understand why you would have an electroshock machine that's designed to have a knob that can be turned up so high that it will just kill you.
To 5,000 volts.
Yeah,
it's not the volts that kill you. It's the amperage.
Yeah, but like the doctor, he's like, I can't turn it up any higher. This is the highest I should take, and it's like at 1,000, but like it goes up to 5,000. Yeah. This thing is designed to kill people. That's a pretty effed up mental health facility.
Maybe it's supposed to. It came from Texas with their.
It's old Sparky from Texas that they've just repurposed as an electroshock treatment. I don't know. Man, so the doctors evac the princess, and Mothra arrives while Godzilla and Rodan beat the hell out of each other. And it's actually kind of a cool fight. And Mothra gets their attention by spraying them both with silk, and they're like, What the hell, man? What's going on here? Why did you just spit all over us? So this is an interesting bit. This is where we truly learn that all the kaiju are basically intelligent. They have a language, because the Shobijin translate this entire conversation that's happening between Mothra, Godzilla, and Rodan. And basically, it boils down to Godzilla and Rodan both hate humans. Godzilla specifically says, why should we help the humans? All they do is bully us. Which is an interesting take.
On all the destruction they leave behind in their wake.
Yeah, and it's like, Godzilla, you're aware enough to understand that you're being bullied, but you're not. And the fact that like humans are creatures that have needs as well, but you aren't aware enough to understand that you're creating havoc just by moving around. That there's a reason why humans are kind of like ineffectually firing weapons at you. Like nothing hurts you. It'd be like us getting hit with dust. Basically, with everything that Godzilla gets hit with by the military.
Mosquitoes.
Yeah, it's like, okay, humans are annoying, but it's not like you're actually ever hurt by them. Well, I guess you get trapped underneath ice, but it's not like it killed you. Right? Like the oxygen destroyer killed a version of Godzilla, but it was like a one-off weapon, right? It doesn't even show up until other movies in different continuities, right? Because it was supposed to be like it died with the doctor.
Yeah, just a one shot device.
So anyway, Ghidorah almost kills all the assassins that are trying to kill the princess, and Godzilla and Rodan decide that they will only help each other if the other apologizes, and Mothra ends up unable to convince them and goes off to fight King Ghidorah herself as a larva. And I guess at this point, Godzilla and Rodan are just kind of like, okay, let's watch this shit show. Because, Mothra's a larva and just going to get her ass kicked. And Godzilla obviously still remembers getting his ass kicked by these larvae in the previous movie. So, they both see Mothra ending up getting her ass kicked. And they decide to end up going in on the fight as it was to help Mothra, because King Ghidorah is kind of a dick anyway. So the Rodan draws Ghidorah away after he beats on Godzilla. Godzilla starts throwing rocks at Ghidorah at one point. That's weird. Like, he doesn't use his atomic breath.
He learned that from King Kong, okay?
Yeah, I know. He learned the whole rock throwing thing from King Kong. We get that. And the princess prays for the salvation of Earth and falls from a ledge after being shot at by the surviving assassin guy. And she actually takes a blow to the head and now remembers who she is. And Rodan ends up doing this really interesting tactic where he actually ends up picking up Mothra, the Mothra larva, and using Mothra like a gun, effectively shooting silk all over King Ghidorah. And Ghidorah is getting silked while Godzilla holds onto his tail so he can't fly away. He's like holding onto his tail. Ghidorah just gets all silly stringed up. And then finally, it's not like they really defeat Ghidorah. Ghidorah just kind of flies away. He's had enough of it. He just can't be humiliated anymore by being like shot all over with freaking silly string and laughed at by Rodan and Godzilla. He's like, screw this, I'm gone. And everyone's like, wow, King Ghidorah is defeated. Yay for humanity.
King Ghidorah just flies out of the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's presumably he leaves to go to space. And then the princess remembers that the cop saved her life 3 times and that she will always remember him. But she's kind of cold and official with it. And so there, like, I thought that there might be some sort of romance building between them, but she like reverts to this kind of cold official type. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I was more surprised the fact that okay, now she's going back to the nation where she came from, and there's no real resolution about the guy who sent the assassin or after her in the first place.
That's very true, but it's the end, folks. That's the end. So it's a different movie in many ways from Mothra versus Godzilla, but it's same in a lot of ways. So I don't know, Chuck, your thoughts.
Well, at this point, in the Toho kaiju films, they were actually trying to do more with these films to make them have a much broader appeal to not just adults but also children. So they were there were some restrictions that the powers that be were placing the filmmakers under for this film. They didn't want them to be too, the Tsuburaya book, there states that this film couldn't be too dark or too violent. During the other thing is that they did some interesting things with the character design for King Ghidorah. He was originally supposed to be goldish body with rainbow colored wings, but in the end, or it says in the Tsuburaya book that he wanted, or Tsuburaya wanted King Ghidorah to be a quote devilish crimson. But once they started figuring out what color they were actually going to paint King Ghidorah, they decided that they're the best looking. The best look for him on screen would be make him entirely gold.
Huh. Yeah, no, I had actually read that about the crimson thing, which I thought was interesting. He would have looked weird as crimson though. Now that I've seen him as gold, like I can't imagine King Ghidorah as crimson anymore. Nor with the rainbow wings. Like that's kind of like Mothra's thing.
Well, there's a production still or in the Tsuburaya book where they have King Ghidorah with he's still gold, but they have him with rainbow colored wings.
Yeah, that's strange. But this is the film that truly begins the friendship between Godzilla and Mothra. This is what it is all the way through the rest of the movies. I can't.
They start to be seen more as defenders of the planet than actual monsters.
It's like they're both gods. They both like have different outlooks on Earth and humanity. Like I said, Godzilla is like the defender of Earth in many ways, and Mothra is seen as the defender of humanity.
As opposed to Gamera, who is defender of the children.
That's right. Gamera only cares about kids. Otherwise, he'll just wreck everything around him. He doesn't care.
I kind of wondered about that. But I don't know. Well, I thought for another day, I suppose.
Yeah, no, that's. Oh man, that's something we should probably review too. The 1990s Gamera films, the Gamera relaunch ones.
No, they're the best Gamera films ever.
Because even though they're like really fairly new compared to most of the movies that we talk about, they are just extensions of these 1950s and 60s movies with many of the same aspects to them. So it's like we talked about Monster Squad for Earth vs. Soup, and that's like 1980s, but it's just an extension of the Universal horror movies. So I see it's okay to talk about those Gamera films too. Anyway, go ahead, Chuck. You had something?
No, I was just geeking out over memories of watching Gamera Attack on Legion.
Yeah. So this is cool that it's also the first time we've seen Rodan since Rodan. And if you've only watched the Godzilla films, this is the first time you see Rodan. I always confuse Rodan and the critter from the Gamera films that drinks from the blood fountain. Oh God, what's his name?
It's not Varan. It's not Baragon. Oh,
Man,
yeah.
I can't
He,
remember.
he opens his mouth and he shoots out the laser.
Yeah, the laser of sound, like the ultrasound. Yeah, I can't remember. He drinks from the fountain of blood that they turn a hotel. Yeah, they turn a hotel into a fountain of blood. God, that's gruesome. Anyway, I get them confused, but anyway, Rodan's really cool. I love Rodan. What works in this movie, Darlene? What were your things that worked?
Gaios. That's what it is.
Gaios,
Gyaos. Yeah, Gaios.
What were the
Okay.
things that you felt worked in this movie, Darlene?
Why don't you start?
Why don't I start? I really like the fact that Mothra wasn't an adult in this, that it was still the larva from the earlier movie. Now, I said that it's the reason why they didn't want to use a full-grown Mothra for this is that they already had two monsters that flew, and having a third would have tons of wires
Strings.
tangling together. As it was already difficult to have Rodan and King Ghidorah in the same scene as it was. So let's not do that. Let's not have a flying Mothra as well. But
And she kicks the ass she's a child, but acts like the adult in the Three Monsters.
yeah, she is. She's because, well, I mean, if you go with Mothra lore, it's the same being. Mothra's always the same being. She's just kind of resurrected, like a phoenix. Correct, Chuck? It's the same.
That's an interesting one.
It's the same Mothra, because I guess there's always this memory that gets moved between the beings, like the incarnations of Mothra.
Genetic memory?
It might be, but it's the Shobijin always say like, "Oh, this Mothra is dying, but there is a new Mothra, and it's okay because it's the same Mothra." Effectively, that was weird when you had twin larvae, but that's probably why one died in the end, was because you can only have one.
No, it's because Godzilla beat the crap out of
Yeah,
it.
okay, that's fine. There was too much internal damage to be had, but I really liked all the monsters in this. I like that they used the larval Mothra, because in the end you have Mothra just shooting silly string again, like the earlier movie, and that actually does a good job. Like, you don't need to have a super cool power like atomic breath or like sonic boom wings. You can literally just spray silk at something and be a threat. Let's say be a threat, because obviously Mothra can't take on King Ghidorah like the others can, because Mothra doesn't have any arms even. She's a freaking larva crawling on the ground. But man, her silk, it can do a couple things. It can get the attention of the other monsters, and it can tangle them up. So I kind of like that. I also think the acting is actually pretty good in this. Like,
It's not as good as
the last one with
last one.
Mothra versus Godzilla. No, I don't think it is. It's not as good as that, but the human story in this is still engaging. I really like Akiko Wakabashi as the princess. I actually think she does a very good job of acting, like in this robotic way. Like, you'd think, oh well, bad actors can act robotic, but she's a good actress, acting in a very specific way that draws you in. I think she did a very good job. And then Yuriko Hoshi playing the reporter in this, I think, was firmly the lead in this. She should have had top billing. She was the center character. Her brother, the cop, was not really the central character. He was a side character. But this was like a female-led kaiju film, in a way. Like, the two most important human characters in this are women. And then you have Mothra that's being the arbitrator, basically the person that's trying to bring the monsters together to fight off the greater evil. So yeah, it's an interesting early kind of female-centric kaiju movie in a weird way,
with UFOs.
with a UFO cult that like doesn't really go anywhere. Like, they're in two scenes, but it seems like they didn't even have to be there. I don't know, but that's something I think does not work, is the UFO cult. Besides making me laugh,
It worked.
It was really more just a vehicle, to introduce King Ghidorah.
sure.
Otherwise, we're left wondering, how did King Ghidorah get there in the first place?
Yeah, he hatched. He was birthed from the head of Zeus.
And then you had the geologist as a geologist.
Yeah. Oh, with that, his name is Geologist. Yeah, that character. What else worked in this? King Ghidorah looked great.
Oh, the character designs, and then the actual or monster suits, just again, just top notch.
Yeah, the I liked Ghidorah's gravity beam effect. Like his heads are just going everywhere, right? Like they're just bobbing up and down. But with the gravity beams hitting the miniature sets, it was just tearing them up. I liked how they did that. I don't know. I thought that was good.
Yeah, it was just another beautiful set of compositing, or example of film compositing. So,
what else worked? Chuck, yell out stuff that you thought really worked in this movie.
Well, I thought it was just a wonderful set of recasting to bring back the Imi Ito and Yumi Ito in order to play the fairies. So there was some really nice continuity there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know if they did it on purpose or not, but it was fun to see. Okay, in all these different films, we see Godzilla, smashing, Nagoya Castle, and it's like, oh, now it's King Ghidorah. Oh, there's Nagoya Castle. All right, so we're gonna give it to him this time.
Yeah, it's not Godzilla. Godzilla kind of takes it easy after he figures out that humans might not be all that bad.
Yeah,
Damn, I gotta rebuild this again.
Yeah,
you gotta wonder if it's if it was like a running joke by the or by the production crew in these early films. That's like, okay, well, all right, let's they gotta smash down Nagoya Castle.
Yeah, it must have taken hours and hours. I mean, hundreds, if not thousands, of man hours to build those. So they're very intricate.
But you think about it, it's like, yeah, you want to be a miniatures expert? Guess what you're gonna do?
You have to rebuild these models over and over and over and over again. But I mean, in the end, that's a good skill to have. Like, I built this castle that got
3
wrecked.
times.
I can now go out and build this castle for a museum now, or whatever, and get paid like good money. I'm an expert at building this castle. I don't know. You know what?
I had one job.
I really like the fact that the monsters talk. That they actually have a conversation. Their roars and weird squeals are actual words that they're having conversations.
Okay.
It's just that the only reason we know that is that the Shobijin are translating it. Like, Godzilla doesn't think humans are all that, and Rodan's like, screw them. I don't know. I thought the fact that they're having a conversation is super cool.
I was back at my volcano, minding my own business, doing my sculpting, and then humans showed up.
Yeah. Some dude dropped his bowler hat on me and then laughed, and I just couldn't handle the disrespect anymore.
I'm a kaiju. Doesn't matter that my feet don't move and that my head just bobs around.
Yeah. I'll wreck this place. I don't know. I thought it was really fun. The human story was good.
With regards to the human story, did they ever explain the odd weather and the illnesses?
No, that's another one of those things that dropped, but it's something to do with King Ghidorah coming in.
Yeah, the only reason all this stuff is happening is just to give an excuse for King Ghidorah to come in, and it doesn't really play off.
Well, that's the thing. They could have just gone with the meteor shower. Okay, King Ghidorah's in space, and he's here. He's landing, or using a meteor as a vehicle to get him there. And it's like, so do they really need to? Was it really necessary to have this whole other, mention of like odd weather and illnesses? It's like, because obviously at the time King Ghidorah wasn't there yet.
Yeah, he wasn't there yet. And it's not like that's a plot point later on. Like, it's not like there's a specific scene that says, hey, it's January, so we have like specifically January stuff up.
No,
but it's hot.
Say it's January and it's 82 degrees.
But does that have any bearing at all to any of the story elements?
No, I don't think so. But I think maybe the egg needed to be warmer.
It was glowing as it was. It came in from outer space. It was hot. Like, I don't know. It was just very strange. I didn't understand why they needed to do that. Other thoughts?
I have to give a shout out to the the cinematographers, because this is yet another kaiju film where Toho is using Toho Scope, their answer to CinemaScope, their version of anamorphic widescreen. So
Yeah. No, it
you know,
looks good.
Yep, a lot of screen space for the kaiju. A lot of good detail in being picked up in the models. So
Oh, for sure.
The puppet was bad for Rodan as he comes up from the ground.
Yeah, I thought the Rodan suit was good though. Like and especially the flying Rodan model looked good. But yeah, the Rodan puppet that was pecking away at like Godzilla's head at one point kind of looked a
I'm
little
talking
weird.
about even before that.
yeah,
Rodan,
but
when it rises from Mount
Mount
Azo,
Aso.
it was a puppet and it was really bad.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I'm just thinking about the close up shots of Rodan's head where he's screeching. You can see the hinge in his mouth.
Yeah.
It just pops open and his beak opens and closes.
So you might think that we would, like in a lot of these other movies where we're talking about monsters that are goofy on screen, that are clearly just really bad props, that we should be bitching about these. The thing is that at least in these Toho movies, the Godzilla movies, part of the charm of them is the goofy suit things or the goofy puppets. Like sometimes, yeah, I can bitch about them, but it doesn't detract from the film. I'll never say that they ruin the film.
Well, another part of it is just as a historian and as a filmmaker, it's fun to look to go behind the scenes and see how these films were made. In the Subaraya book, they have like a small photograph on page 90. All the way at the bottom, you've got like two photographs. The top photograph is Rodan soaring in front of a mountain, and then underneath it, you see the Godzilla. And Rodan, Godzilla's breathing his atomic breath, and then you see like all the crew hands who are like ducking down to stay out of the way of the camera, and they've got Rodan puppet on a pole, and they're holding it up there. So
it's just this. It's all practical. It's all done by hand in camera. You don't need crazy special effects to do a fun monster action film. That being said, I've watched like modern suitmation kaiju films that like there's one that's on like Amazon Prime that you can watch for free. I forget what it's called, but it's like Sushi Monsters Attack or something like that. And they're goofy. They're goofy.
Like Big Man Japan.
Yeah, sort of like that. It's really goofy looking, but in these it's charming because this is, you can tell that people put a lot of effort into making the suits as good as they could. The sets are stunning. That no one would ever make sets like that again today. They would just rather do it in CG.
Mm-hmm.
So like the craftsmanship of these miniatures and these sets are what make these movies amazing. So
And it's done with love.
Yeah, it's done with love. It's not done out of like some sort of like laughing at it. They did this out of love and passion. So while this isn't as good as Mothra versus Godzilla or some of the other films, this has its charms. This shows like the budding friendship between Godzilla and Mothra. It actually has a decent human plot, which many of the Godzilla films don't.
I kept getting flashbacks when I watched this to Destroy All Monsters.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it seemed like some interesting parallels in the story, almost like they were reusing certain plot elements.
Yeah, that's reasonable to think. I can see that. So do we all recommend this film? Is this still one of the best Godzilla films? One of the better Godzilla films, I should
It's
say.
one of the better.
So Darlene, set away from the microphone. It's one of the better.
One of the better.
Do you recommend it, Darlene?
Yeah, I like Godzilla films.
Chuck?
It's a Godzilla film. I have to recommend it.
Okay, you have to recommend it. I do too.
It's a moral imperative.
I do recommend it too. It's just that it's not as good as Mothra versus Godzilla, but Mothra versus Godzilla might be one of the best, if not the best.
Well, that definitely set a high bar for that one. So, I mean, just looking again, getting back to the Reddit post, where they compare the numbers, from the gentleman, Mr. Smigel, who went through and King Ghidorah. I mean, we're talking 8 minutes out of 93 minutes. So down to 8.6 per percent of the film was kaiju battles. So we're looking a little bit less than Mothra versus Godzilla being 10 minutes and 30 seconds. So at this point, with Godzilla being 8 minutes and 45 seconds and the others being about 9 to 10 minutes, this one is down to 8 minutes. So could have had a little bit more kaiju or action for my tastes. But what they did have there really made up for it, especially, like I said, that opening sequence where they did the whole direct on film and compositing to when King Ghidorah shows up.
Mm-hmm. For sure. No, I agree. So we all recommend it. I hope everyone enjoyed listening. I know that we're going to continue doing Godzilla films in the future. I would really, truly like to do all of the Godzilla films all the way through the Final Wars Millennium series.
What might be a fun exercise is to go back and watch review Rodan, but also look at some of the little side films that Toho made at the time, whether it be like Baragon or Battleship Atragon.
See, I wouldn't mind seeing Baragon. That would be really interesting. I'd like to do Rodan as well, for sure. I just need to get copies. Yeah, we just can't find a copy of it for sale right now.
Yeah,
well,
and
at the time, a copy of it for $60.
Yeah,
yeah. At the time, they were also they were looking at making our series called Ultra Q, and or after this, they made the Ultraman series. So those are another ones that the Subarai and his crew worked on. That would be fun little things to or fun little shows to. I mean, these were actual TV series. Ultra Q was launched in 65, 66 in that time period, and again, these were Subaraya and his team, making these little kaiju, or kaiju shows. So
I know a lot of the suit. Well, not a lot, but some of the suits from Ultraman got used in Destroy All Monsters.
Yeah. Didn't you mention it was Baragon was one of them?
Yeah, Baragon. Well, Baragon was the original suit from Baragon. Then it got used in Ultraman and changed. Then they had to rebuild it and change it back from Ultraman. Something like that, yeah. And a couple of the background critters too, like the one jumping thing.
Yeah.
That was from Ultraman. But anyway, we should leave it there. We all recommend it. We do like these films. They are fun. This is on the better side of the Godzilla films. I will say that. Where I think Destroy All Monsters kind of falls in the lower half.
Yeah.
But this was good. So I'm Aaron.
I'm Darlene.
And our special guest.
And I'm Chuck. Thanks again for the invite.
Yep.
Good evening.
And keep watching the skies.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.